Okay, so picture this. A village in Malawi facing an absolutely impossible challenge. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is turning to magic for a solution. Well, almost everyone. There's this one boy, and he's looking somewhere else entirely. He's looking to science. This is the incredible, true story of William Kamkwamba.
This quote from William himself, wow, it just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? It tells you everything. This is a story where all the old ways, all the traditions, they had no answers. The only hope was a totally new way of thinking. And the real fight here, you'll see, wasn't just against hunger. It was a clash between two completely different worlds, magic and science.
So to really get what William accomplished, you gotta understand the world he came from. I mean, in his village, Masitala, magic was, well, it was real. It was a powerful, everyday force. This wasn't just some old superstition, you know? It was how people explained everything, how the world worked.
And this really shows you the two worlds William was living in, side by side. On one hand, you have the world he was born into, right? A world filled with witch planes flying at night and magic hunters who could literally vanish into thin air. But then, there was this other world, the one brewing inside his own head. He was wondering, how does a radio actually capture invisible signals? Or how does a bicycle dynamo make light? It was this relentless curiosity that made him, well, him.
And then, disaster strikes. A new government comes into power, and almost overnight, they cut all the subsidies for fertilizer and seed. Now, for a nation of farmers, this was basically a death sentence. To make everything worse, the rains failed. And just like that, a devastating famine swept across the land.
And the crisis, it just escalated with terrifying speed. I mean, look at this. What started as the usual hungry season in December, it turned into an absolute nightmare. By January, all the food stores were empty. Gone. By February, his entire family was down to just one meal a day. And by March, you'd see people walking for miles, carrying the last things they owned, just hoping to sell them for a tiny bit of grain.
One. Just one. That's how many meals William's family of 7 shared each day. And you can't even really call it a meal. It was this single, small, gray blob of something called enzima. It's a maize flour porridge. They would literally pass it around, and each person would just take a couple of mouthfuls. That was it for the whole day.
This quote, this just shows you the real toll of the famine. It wasn't just physical pain. The hunger was so deep, so profound, it could actually steal your memories. Imagine that. Standing in his family's empty food storage room, William couldn't even remember what it felt like to have a full stomach. As he put it, starving was a cruel kind of science. It just strips everything away.
So with no money to pay the school fees, the famine forced William to drop out. And for most kids, that would have been it, right? The end of their education. But not for William. For him, this was actually a new beginning, because his hunger for knowledge was just as powerful as his hunger for food. And it led him to this small, dusty little library that was funded by American donors.
And right here, this is the sequence of events that changes everything. He's forced out of school by the famine. That leads him to the library. In the library, he finds this American textbook called Explaining Physics. He's just fascinated by the diagrams, and then he sees it, a picture of a windmill. But this wasn't just for grinding grain. The book said it could generate electricity.
And this is so crucial. William didn't just see a cool science project, he saw a solution. He saw a weapon. He called his idea electric wind. And this machine he was dreaming of, it wasn't really about a light bulb. It was about powering a water pump. It was about irrigating the field so they could grow a second harvest. It was a way to fight back against the hunger.
Okay, so having the idea, that's one thing. But actually building it, that's a whole different ballgame. Remember, William had no money, no real tools, no parts. His only resource was the local scrapyard, which is basically a graveyard of old tractors and rusted-out junk.
I mean, look at this list. This is a blueprint of pure genius, born out of total necessity. He found an old tractor fan. He used a friend's beat-up bicycle frame, a shock absorber. He even figured out how to melt down PVC pipes to hand-carve the blades. And get this, he hammered Carlsberg bottle caps flat to use as washers. Every single piece was scrap, scavenged, and brought back to life for his machine.
But while he was building this strange tower of junk, the villagers wasn't seeing an inventor. No way. They saw a madman. Or even worse, they thought he was a witch. People literally said, his machine is chasing away our rain. They believed his invention was some kind of dark magic that was actually making the drought worse. So he wasn't just fighting against physics, he was fighting against centuries of belief.
But William,
he just didn't stop. He kept going. He hauled all the pieces back to his family's home. He built this rickety tower out of blue gum trees, and somehow he hoisted his creation all the way to the top. This was it, the moment of truth. And the whole village gathered to watch. Can you imagine? The same people who had called him crazy, who had accused him of evil magic, they were all there, standing and staring. And the silence, you could just feel it, was thick with doubt and suspicion. He connected the wires, and then a breeze picked up. The blades, those hand-carved PVC pipes, they started to turn. Slowly at first, then faster and faster. And a single, small car bulb, just dangling at the end of a wire, flickered to life. There was light. It was just this tiny little spark, but in that moment, it felt like it lit up the entire world. William had done it. He'd created a new kind of magic, a magic that was real, the magic of science. And you know what? That one little light bulb, that was only the beginning. The boy they all called a madman, well, now he was a genius. And that small victory was about to power a much, much larger journey. So you can really see the impact grow. It starts with that one bulb. Then, he manages to power 4 lights in his family's home. After that, villagers started lining up outside his house to charge their cell phones. And pretty soon, the story of his electric wind spread way beyond Malawi. Before he knew it, he was on a plane, invited to a TED conference to share his story with the entire world.
But even when he was standing on a global stage, his goal never changed. It was never about fame or money for him. It was always about his home. It was about using what he learned to help his community and to make sure that no one in his village would ever have to face that cruel science of starvation again.
William's story is just such a powerful reminder, isn't it? Innovation isn't always about fancy labs and big budgets. Sometimes it's just about seeing a possibility where everyone else only sees junk. And it kind of leaves you with a question, right? For all of us. What's the junk in your world that's just waiting for a spark of imagination to build a better future?